Here's something most high performers don't realize until much later. You can be incredibly clear and still have no idea where you're actually going because clarity doesn't disappear when things fall apart. It disappears when things finally start working, when you're capable, when you're trusted, when momentum starts kicking in, when results start stacking fast enough that no one questions your direction, including you. And by the time you finally slow down, you realize that you've been moving so fast that you never stop to ask why. If you've ever felt productive, accomplished, and exhausted, but strangely disconnected from where your life or career is headed, this episode is for you. If you're new here, my name is Corrie. I'm a keynote speaker, leadership strategist, and author of the upcoming book, The 5 Overwhelmed Culprits. And today we're talking about why high performers lose clarity first. It's not because they're failing, but because they're succeeding without pause. Most people assume clarity disappears when someone is confused. That's not what happens with high performers, though. High performers don't feel unclear. They feel decisive. They feel productive. They feel needed. Clarity loss for them doesn't show up as, I don't know what I want. It shows up as, I'll think about that later, or I don't have time to slow down right now, or this is working, so I'll just keep going, or once things settle, I'll reassess. But here's the truth. Clarity doesn't disappear because you stop moving. It disappears because you never stop moving long enough to assess direction. Speed creates the illusion of certainty, and competence makes that illusion very convincing. So back 7 or 8 years ago, I was immediately post-divorce. I was starting over from zero. I had all sorts of new routines, goals, and momentum. So I went from commuting within Brooklyn, which is where I lived, to having to commute from Long Island into Brooklyn. So I was suddenly commuting over 2 hours each way, so 4 hours a day. I had a brand new baby because my divorce happened when my son was only 5 months old. I also still had my career. I had gotten a promotion and I was making a lot of advances there. And I was rebuilding my life very quickly as a result, even with everything going on behind the scenes. My divorce was actually domestic abuse situation. So despite surviving that with my infant and starting over from zero, I was rebuilding my life super quickly in that I saved money. I bought a new home. I moved out to be closer to my family. And I was still showing up to work and kicking ass and taking names, more or less. So the truth was, I was functioning at a very high level. I was still achieving a lot. There was nothing that really took a beat while I was going through what was one of the worst situations of my life. And externally, as I look back, things look like they were just back on track. I kind of picked up and restarted my new life where I'd left off. So through this, I just kept moving and moving and moving and moving and achieving and rebuilding, achieving and rebuilding. And I didn't realize until I was finally forced to take a vacation. I went on a vacation with my family and we did one of those cruises where you go up to New England and you look at all the fall leaves and stuff. So I remember I was sitting right by the Portland lighthouse and I have my son in the infant carrier and I'm sitting and I'm looking at this lighthouse. And it was the first time I recognized, like, whoa, Corrie, you could smell your son's baby hair. You could pay attention to the breeze in your face. You could smell the salt air. Holy crap, you're actually present. And it was really in that moment that I realized, like, why am I not doing this on a more regular basis? I was so excited to actually be present in the moment. And when I looked at it, I was like, you know what? This is my own fault because I was so busy being busy. I was so busy saying yes to everybody else's requests of me, of all the different responsibilities, of all the things that I was very competently able to show up and do on a daily basis, that there was absolutely no space for me to evaluate whether or not everything I was moving towards was in the right direction. So during that time frame between when my divorce happened and when I went on this trip, I would have told you, I know exactly what I'm doing. I had my goals. I was going to get a new house. I was going to be in a new community. I was going to get a promotion. I was going to do all the things. And I was checking off all the boxes. But in hindsight, decisions were being made super fast because I didn't really have time to think on things. My calendar was completely maxed out. Mind you, my commute was over 4 hours a day. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for anything else in my calendar. I was running on pure adrenaline. And when you're running on adrenaline, that gives you like a high in a way. So when I look back at it now, I wasn't confused. I felt like I knew what was going on, but I was moving so fast. I didn't notice that I wasn't actually choosing anything between my 4-hour commute, between the back-to-back commitments, between the constant problem solving, being the one supporting me and my 5-month-old. I was the sole breadwinner. Everybody was dependent on me. I was always reacting. I was very rarely ever reflecting until I sat and looked at that lighthouse. Clarity doesn't disappear in chaos. It disappeared in momentum. High performers lose their clarity first because they're rewarded for speed. They're trusted with responsibility. They are the strong ones, right? They're the ones that everyone depends on. They become, as a result, the default decision maker. They absorb even more of their share of the mental and emotional load. And when clarity starts to erode, the brain compensates by switching into execution mode. This looks like just do the next thing. Just keep moving. Just don't slow down. And this is how people end up on what I refer to as the hamster wheel. We're busy, we're capable, we're productive, and we're unable to articulate what am I actually building towards right now. When I interviewed participants for my book, especially the working moms that I was talking to, one phrase came up over and over again. It was, I don't have time to think. Not, I don't care, or I'm unmotivated, or I don't know what I want. That wasn't what anybody said. All they said was there's no space. Every single minute was accounted for. Every decision was urgent. Every role was already demanding their attention. And when there's no margin, clarity doesn't stand a chance. It's not a discipline issue. It's formally a capacity issue. No space means no prioritization. And no prioritization means reactive leadership, whether that be at work or at home. This is how clarity loss actually shows up for high performers. You're productive, but you're disconnected. You make fast decisions, but you're quietly second guessing them later. Everything feels important, but at the same time, nothing feels meaningful. You keep saying once things slow down, but they never actually do. That or life feels like something that you're maintaining and you have no active sense in directing it. If this resonates, you're not broken, you're overloaded. And clarity doesn't disappear loudly. It fades actually very quietly while you're busy being responsible. Clarity isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a practice. It requires space and reflection and intentional pauses. High performers don't need more motivation. They need permission and structure to slow down long enough to choose direction. Because let's be real, you cannot lead a team, your family, yourself through uncertainty if you don't know what actually matters right now. Clarity is what creates grounded leadership, better decisions, and sustainable momentum. And this is exactly what I explore in my upcoming book, The 5 Overwhelmed Culprits, Strategies to Save Your Sanity Without Sacrificing Your Success, which is coming out on May 12th, 2026. Clarity is the foundation for everything, for confidence, for energy, for boundaries, for leadership. And if you want to identify what's currently stealing yours, take my free Overwhelmed Culprit quiz. It's linked below in the show notes. You're not behind, you're not failing, you're just moving too fast to hear yourself think. And that can change. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for checking out The Next Step with Corrie Lowe. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. Together, we'll transform overwhelm into action, and we'll keep taking the next step towards confident leadership. See you next time.